Christmas broke my twins' hearts. Then a billionaire CEO showed up with a shocking truth. The night I told my daughters we couldn't afford Christmas presents was the same night I found a black Bentley parked outside our apartment complex. I never expected that within minutes, the man I'd spent 12 years trying to forget would be standing in my living room, about to change everything. He stood there in his expensive coat, looking at my daughters with an expression I couldn't decipher. $800 million, he said. My knees nearly buckled. 800 million. That can't be possible. But it is, Margot. Your sister Eleanor left everything to your daughters. 51% ownership of Sinclair Pharmaceuticals. Jenny tugged at my sleeve. Mom, are we rich now? I couldn't answer her. I was too busy staring at Atlas Reed, the man who had walked away without explanation 12 years ago, the man who was now telling me my estranged sister had made my twins heirs to a pharmaceutical empire. And who exactly are you to my daughters, Mr. Reed? I finally managed to ask, my voice barely steady. His amber eyes, the same eyes I saw every day in my girls' faces, held mine. More than you've told them I am, he answered softly. Have you ever had to look your children in the eyes and tell them there would be no Christmas this year? Have you felt that hollow ache in your chest when you realize that despite working 3 jobs, you still can't afford to give them the one day of magic they deserve? Then you'll understand what I was feeling that December evening as I sat at our scratched kitchen table, surrounded by bills marked final notice in angry red letters. The heating in our apartment barely worked. The windows rattled when the winter wind blew. The refrigerator hummed loudly in the corner, nearly empty except for half a gallon of milk, some eggs, and the leftovers from the pasta I'd stretched for 3 nights. But what hurt most wasn't our circumstances, it was knowing I'd failed to shield my girls from them. I looked up from the hopeless math I'd been doing trying to conjure money from nothing to see Olivia and Jenny standing in the doorway. They were 11 years old, identical in appearance with my auburn hair and eyes the color of amber honey. But that's where the similarities ended. Mom, Olivia said, her voice practical as always. We need to talk about Christmas. I know, sweetie, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I was actually just thinking about that. Jenny twirled a strand of hair around her finger, a nervous habit she'd had since kindergarten. We don't need presents, she offered, though the tremble in her lower lip told a different story. What we need, Olivia continued, is a realistic budget discussion. Our class had a financial literacy unit last month. I understand about prioritizing necessities over wants. My heart broke a little more. What 11-year-old should have to understand that? What child should speak with such resigned practicality about Christmas? Girls, I said, gesturing for them to join me at the table. I pushed the bills aside and took their hands in mine. This is temporary. Things are tight right now, but it's okay, Mom, Jenny interrupted, squeezing my hand. We know you're doing your best. Olivia nodded firmly. Besides, Christmas isn't about presents. It's about family. I looked at my beautiful, brave daughters and felt equal measures of pride and shame. Pride in the people they were becoming despite our circumstances. Shame that they had to be so understanding, so mature, when they deserved to simply be children. But before I could respond, a pair of headlights swept across our living room window, illuminating the water stain on our ceiling for a brief moment before settling into stillness outside. Mom, someone rich is here, Olivia said, pressing her face against our frosted window, her breath creating small circles of fog on the glass. Probably for the Hendersons upstairs, I replied, not looking up from the bills I was gathering into a pile. The Hendersons were the only people in our building who ever had visitors arriving in anything fancier than a decade-old sedan. No, Mom. He's looking at our door number, Jenny called from the hallway where she'd stationed herself as lookout. She had always been the more impulsive of the twins, the one who felt everything deeply and acted before thinking. A knock at the door made me jump. 3 precise taps, like a countdown. I wasn't expecting anyone. We didn't get visitors in our corner of Westridge Apartments, especially not after dark, especially not in December when everyone who could afford to had already fled to warmer places for the holidays. Don't answer it, I said automatically, gathering the bills into a messy pile and shoving them into a drawer. I didn't want anyone, even a stranger, to see the evidence of our struggles. Too late. Jenny had already pulled the door open, curiosity outweighing caution as it often did with her. I heard his voice before I saw him. Hello there. You must be. I moved faster than I thought possible, inserting myself between my daughter and the doorway, ready to protect her from whatever stood on the other side. And there he was. Atlas Reed. 12 years older than when I'd last seen him. The boyishness of his face had hardened into something more defined, more certain. His dark hair now had threads of silver at the temples. But those eyes, deep amber like honey held to sunlight, remained unchanged. Still capable of seeing straight through my carefully constructed defenses. The same eyes my daughters saw in the mirror every morning. Margot, he said simply, his voice carrying that same quiet intensity that had once made me feel like the only person in any room. You need to leave, I replied, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. Mom, who is he? Jenny whispered loudly behind me. No one, I said firmly, trying to close the door. Atlas placed his hand against it, not pushing, just preventing its closure. 5 minutes, Margot. After 12 years, I think that's reasonable. Reasonable? The word came out sharper than I intended. You lost the right to reasonable a long time ago. He nodded, acknowledging this truth. I'm not here for rights. I'm here with information you deserve to have. We're listening, Olivia said from behind me, her voice carrying that analytical edge that appeared whenever she sensed adult complications. Olivia, I warned. 5 minutes won't hurt, Mom, she countered. And it's 13 degrees outside. Basic human decency suggests we shouldn't leave people standing in the cold. Atlas's mouth twitched, almost smiling. She has your logic. And my stubbornness, I conceded, stepping back reluctantly. 5 minutes. He entered our small apartment, immediately making the space feel more confined with his height and the quiet authority he carried like an invisible cloak. His charcoal wool coat probably cost more than our monthly rent. The subtle scent of his cologne, sandalwood, and something distinctly him brought back memories I'd spent years trying to forget. The twins watched him with mirror expressions of curiosity, positioning themselves on either side of me like sentinels. Your coat, sir. Jenny offered with exaggerated politeness she'd picked up from period dramas she loved to watch. Thank you, Atlas replied, shrugging out of it and handing it to her with equal formality. Beneath it, he wore a simple navy sweater and dark jeans that somehow still looked expensive. Clock's ticking, I reminded him, crossing my arms. He looked around our apartment, taking in the second-hand furniture, the patched curtains, the twins' artwork covering water stains on the walls with an expression I couldn't read. You have beautiful daughters, he began. I know that. That's not information. He met my eyes directly. Margot, your sister Eleanor died 3 months ago. The world tilted. I reached for the back of the sofa to steady myself. Eleanor. My half-sister whom I hadn't seen since our father's funeral 8 years ago. The golden child. The one who'd inherited everything while I got nothing. How do you know about Eleanor? I managed. I've been working with her company for the past 5 years. Reed Ventures acquired a controlling interest in Sinclair Pharmaceuticals. Of course he had. Atlas Reed, venture capitalist, acquiring companies like other people collected stamps. Eleanor's pharmaceutical company had been her pride and joy, our father's legacy to her. I'm sorry for your loss, I said automatically, the social reflex taking over while my brain tried to process why he was here. But that doesn't explain why you're standing in my living room after 12 years of silence. He glanced at the twins, then back to me. Perhaps we should discuss the rest privately. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of my daughters. Atlas nodded, accepting my terms. Eleanor's will was quite specific. She left everything to her nieces. What nieces? Eleanor didn't have. I stopped as realization dawned. My daughters? But that's impossible. She never even met them. She knew about them. She kept tabs on you over the years. Tabs? What does that mean? Anger flared hot in my chest. It means, Atlas said carefully, that Eleanor knew she had nieces. And she made them her heirs. Heirs to what? Her condo. Her shoe collection. I laughed bitterly. Heirs to Sinclair Pharmaceuticals. 51% ownership, to be precise. Currently valued at approximately $800 million. The room went silent. Even the twins, who typically buzzed with energy and questions, stood frozen. That's not possible, I finally said. Eleanor wouldn't. I've spent 3 months verifying it, working with her lawyers, ensuring everything was in order before approaching you. The documentation is all here. He reached into an inside pocket and withdrew a folded document. I stared at it without taking it. Why would she do this? Atlas's expression softened slightly. Her letter explains it better than I could. Letter? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. She left one for you. And separate ones for each of your daughters, to be opened on their 18th birthday. We're 11, Olivia stated pragmatically. That's 7 years from now. Atlas nodded solemnly. I'm aware. I've been appointed trustee until then. You. The word came out like an accusation. Yes. Which means I'll be in your lives, whether either of us planned for that or not. I felt lightheaded, the implications spinning around me like snowflakes in a blizzard. My daughters who just an hour ago I couldn't buy Christmas presents for were now heirs to a pharmaceutical empire. And Atlas Reed, the man who had broken my heart 12 years ago, would be overseeing it all. Mom, are we rich now? Jenny asked, her eyes wide. I don't know, baby. This is complicated. Not really, Olivia countered with her usual pragmatism. Assets transferred through inheritance are legally binding. If Mom's sister left us her company, then we own it. Simple. Atlas looked at her with undisguised admiration. You're exactly right. The situation is legally straightforward. It's the human elements that are complicated. Like why you disappeared 12 years ago. Jenny asked bluntly. Jenny. I gasped. What? You always say we should ask direct questions when we want real answers. Atlas didn't flinch from her question. That's fair. And yes, that's one of the complications we'll need to address. Your 5 minutes are up, I said, moving toward the door. My mind couldn't process all this at once. I needed space, time to think without his presence filling every corner of the room. Margot, not tonight, Atlas. I need to process this. I need to read Eleanor's letter in private. When you're ready to discuss next steps. Next steps, I repeated hollowly. The girl's inheritance requires certain decisions to be made promptly. Board meetings, trust structures, educational planning. Educational planning. They're 11. With resources like this, their educational opportunities expand considerably. I felt a flare of protective anger. They're not pawns to be moved around on some corporate chessboard. No, he agreed quietly. They're bright young women who just inherited significant responsibility. My job is to ensure they're prepared for it when the time comes. And what's in this for you? I couldn't help asking. Something flickered across his face, pain, perhaps, or regret. A chance to make things right. After he left, I stood staring at the closed door, the manila envelope heavy in my hands. Mom. Olivia's voice pulled me back to the present. Are you going to open it? I moved to the couch and sat between them, the envelope on my lap like a bomb that might detonate at any moment. That man knows you, Jenny said, not a question but a statement. Yes. From before us? Yes. Is he our father? Olivia asked directly, always cutting to the heart of things. I looked at their faces, these beautiful girls who had my determination and someone else's eyes, and decided they deserved honesty. No. Your father was Julian Devereaux. I've shown you his picture. The one who died in the accident before we were born, Jenny said softly. Yes. Then who is Atlas Reed to you? Olivia pressed. I took a deep breath. Someone I once loved very much. Someone who left without explanation. And now he's back because we're rich, Jenny concluded. We don't know that we're rich, I cautioned. And we don't know why he's really back, only one way to find out, Olivia said, pointing to the envelope. I broke the seal and pulled out the contents, legal documents, financial statements, and a sealed letter with my name written in Eleanor's precise handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Margot, if you're reading this, then I've died without us reconciling. That's my greatest regret. I know you think I took everything when Father died. The truth is more complicated. The company was failing when I inherited it. Father left you nothing because there was nothing to leave, only debt and a failing business. I've spent 8 years rebuilding it, making it something worthwhile. I've watched you from a distance, admiring how you raised those beautiful girls on your own. You've given them what matters most: love, values, strength. I want to give them what I can: security, opportunity, a legacy. The company is now theirs. Atlas Reed will ensure they receive everything they're entitled to. Trust him. Despite what happened between you, he's a good man. I hope this gift allows your daughters the freedom to become whoever they're meant to be. And I hope it gives you some peace, knowing they'll never face the financial struggles you've endured. I was wrong not to reach out. Pride kept me away. Don't let it keep you from accepting what your daughters deserve. With love and regret, Eleanor. I folded the letter, tears blurring my vision. Eleanor had been watching us all these years. Had seen our struggles and said nothing. Had rebuilt our father's company and made my daughters her heirs. The sister I'd resented had been planning this final act of reconciliation. Mom, are you okay? Jenny asked, leaning against my shoulder. I'm not sure, I admitted. This is a lot to process. The documents indicate we now control a pharmaceutical company valued at approximately $800 million, Olivia reported, having already scanned the financial statements with her usual efficiency. There are trust structures in place to manage it until we're of age. With Atlas Reed as trustee, Jenny added, peering over her sister's shoulder. Yes. Do you trust him? Olivia asked. Did I trust Atlas Reed? The man who had once promised me forever and then vanished without explanation. The man who had just reappeared in our lives with life-changing news. I don't know, I answered honestly. But I need to figure it out quickly. If you've ever had your life turned upside down in a single evening, hit that like button right now. And if you've ever had to decide whether to trust someone who broke your heart, comment "second chance" below. Because some decisions can change everything. That night, after the twins finally fell asleep, their heads filled with questions about inheritances and companies and the mysterious man who had appeared at our door, I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of cheap wine and the business card Atlas had left. Atlas Reed, CEO, Reed Ventures. A simple black card with silver embossing, a phone number, nothing else. 12 years ago, he'd been a promising young analyst with unconventional investment strategies and a smile that made my heart race. We'd met at a charity event where I was working as a server. He'd asked for my number instead of a canopy. 3 months later, we were inseparable. 6 months later, we were planning a future. Then he vanished. No explanation. No goodbye. Just an empty apartment and a void where my heart had been. I discovered I was pregnant 2 weeks later. By then, he'd changed his number, moved offices, disappeared as thoroughly as if he'd never existed. I tried everything to find him, until my pride finally overcame my desperation. When the twins were born, I named them Jenny and Olivia Devereaux, giving them the last name of a college boyfriend who had died years earlier in a motorcycle accident. It was easier than explaining the truth, easier than leaving that blank space on their birth certificates like an open wound. I never told them about Atlas. Never explained how their actual father had chosen to disappear rather than face whatever had frightened him away. They deserved better than that story. Now he was back, appointed by my estranged sister to oversee my daughter's inheritance. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. I picked up my phone and dialed the number on his card before I could talk myself out of it. He answered on the first ring. Margot. Not, hello, or, this is Atlas Reed. Just my name, as if he'd been waiting for my call, as if no one else would be calling him at 11:30 p.m. We need to talk, I said, bypassing pleasantries. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. Name the place. Riverside Park. By the old carousel. Noon. I'll be there. He paused. How are you doing with all this? I don't know yet. That's why we need to talk. Another pause. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about Eleanor. Are you? Did you know her well? Well enough to respect her. Not well enough to understand all her choices. Like making you the trustee for nieces you didn't know existed. Like not reconciling with her sister while she had the chance, he corrected gently. I wasn't prepared for the emotion that washed over me at his words. The regret I hadn't allowed myself to feel about Eleanor suddenly pressed against my chest. Noon tomorrow, I said, ending the call before he could hear the catch in my voice. Sleep evaded me that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through memories I'd locked away years ago. The night Atlas and I met. The small apartment we'd shared. The dreams we'd whispered in the dark. The morning I woke to find him gone. I remembered standing in our empty apartment, a pregnancy test in my hand, staring at the positive result while my world crumbled around me. I remembered calling his cell phone over and over until the service was disconnected. Going to his office to be told he no longer worked there. Waiting outside his favorite coffee shop for days, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. When had I stopped looking? When had I accepted he was truly gone? Probably around the time my pregnancy became impossible to hide and I needed to focus on survival rather than heartbreak. I crept into the twins' room and stood watching them sleep. Jenny with her arms flung wide, taking up more than her share of the bed they still insisted on sharing despite my offers to separate them. Olivia neat and contained even in sleep, as if her dreams were as orderly as her waking thoughts. They had his eyes. His chin. The way. Olivia tilted her head when considering a problem that was pure Atlas. How had I never allowed myself to see it before? What would happen when they learned the truth? Because they would have to learn it now. Atlas was back in our lives, and these girls were too smart not to eventually put the pieces together. The question wasn't if I should tell them, but how and when. I touched each of their cheeks gently, overwhelmed by love and fear in equal measure. Then I returned to my own room to continue my sleepless vigil until morning. The twins left for school the next day full of questions I couldn't answer yet. So are we really rich? Jenny asked as I handed her lunch. We need to understand more before jumping to conclusions, Olivia said, ever the practical one. There could be conditions, limitations, tax implications. I promise we'll figure it all out, I told them, hugging them tighter than usual. But for now, let's keep this between us, okay? No telling friends at school about any of this. They both nodded solemnly, though I could see the excitement bubbling just beneath Jenny's surface. It was the first time in years I'd seen genuine hope light up her eyes, and it made my heart ache in a way I couldn't quite define. After they left, I stood in our small kitchen, surveying the space that had been our home for the past 5 years. The cabinets with peeling laminate. The linoleum floor with its permanent scuff marks. The window that never quite closed all the way, letting in drafts that made our heating bills skyrocket. It wasn't much, but we'd made it ours. Would this be the last winter we spent here? The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. I dressed carefully for my meeting with Atlas, choosing clothes that projected strength rather than style, dark jeans, a navy sweater that had seen better days but still held its shape, boots that could handle the snow. I pulled my hair back into a simple ponytail and applied minimal makeup. Not to impress him, I told myself, but to face him as an equal rather than the desperate, heartbroken girl he'd left behind. Riverside Park was deserted when I arrived, the winter cold keeping most people indoors. The old carousel stood silent under its pavilion, the painted horses frozen mid-gallop beneath a dusting of snow. I came early, needing the quiet moment to collect my thoughts. Walking through the familiar paths, I remembered bringing the twins here when they were small. We couldn't afford the carousel rides often, but sometimes, on special occasions, I'd scrape together enough for one magical circuit. Jenny always chose the black stallion with the golden mane. Olivia preferred the white horse with blue trappings. I would stand between them, one hand on each saddle, watching their faces light up with joy as the music played and the world spun around us. Now the carousel was closed for winter, the music silenced, the magic dormant until spring. Like so many things in our lives. Atlas arrived exactly at noon, punctual as always. He wore a charcoal overcoat with a burgundy scarf, simple, elegant, like everything about him. He carried 2 paper cups and offered one to me. Hot chocolate. You still take it with cinnamon? The fact that he remembered such a small detail after 12 years made something twist painfully in my chest. Thank you, I said, accepting the cup. The warmth seeped through my gloves, a small comfort against the December chill. We walked silently to a bench overlooking the frozen river, brushed away the snow, and sat with careful distance between us. I have questions, I began. I'd be surprised if you didn't. Why did you disappear 12 years ago? He didn't seem surprised by my directness. I was given an ultimatum by someone with considerable power over my future. Disappear without explanation, or watch your career be systematically destroyed. Who would do that? Your father. I nearly dropped my cup. My father? That's absurd. He didn't even know he knew everything about us, Margot. He had me investigate the moment we started dating. Found out about my background, my family's financial troubles, my scholarship to a school I couldn't otherwise afford. He saw me as an opportunist going after his daughter. But I wasn't even speaking to him then. We'd been estranged for years. That didn't matter to him. You were still his daughter, and I was, in his words, not good enough to breathe the same air. I shook my head in disbelief. So you just left? Without a word? I tried to fight it at first. Then he showed me exactly what he could do. In 1 week, I lost my apartment lease, my position at the firm, and my scholarship funding for my MBA program. Your father knew people who knew people. You could have told me. And what would you have done? Confronted him? Been pulled back into his orbit? You were finally free of him, building your own life. That wasn't your decision to make, I said sharply. No. It wasn't. That was my mistake. He turned to face me fully. I thought I was protecting you. I was wrong. The simple admission caught me off guard. I'd expected defenses, justifications, not this straightforward acceptance of fault. When did you find out about the twins? I asked. Pain flashed across his face. 3 months ago. When Eleanor hired me to review the succession planning for Sinclair Pharmaceuticals. She showed me their pictures. And you knew they were yours. The moment I saw them. They have your smile. My mother's chin. His voice roughened. They're 11 years old. I've missed 11 years of their lives. You missed them by choice. No, he said firmly. Never by choice. If I had known you were pregnant, nothing would have kept me away. Not your father, not threats, nothing. How can I believe that? Because the moment I found out, I began searching for you. It took me 3 months to track you down after Eleanor died. 3 months to ensure everything was legally sound, to prepare to meet my daughters. His hands tightened around his cup. I never would have stayed away if I had known. I wanted to hold on to my anger. It had been my companion for so long, keeping me safe from the pain of his abandonment. But his words rang with a truth I couldn't easily dismiss. Eleanor knew they were yours, I said quietly. That's why she named you trustee. He nodded. She figured it out on her own. Said they have the same analytical expression I get when solving problems. I'd noticed that myself the way Olivia's brow furrowed when concentrating, identical to a man she'd never met. What happens now? I asked. That depends on you. Legally, I'm their trustee regardless of what you decide about me personally. But I want more than that. I want to know my daughters. I want them to know me. They believe their father is dead. I know. Eleanor told me. You want me to tell them I've been lying their entire lives? I want you to tell them the truth in whatever way causes the least pain. And I'll accept whatever role you decide I should play: father, trustee, family friend. Just please don't shut me out of their lives completely. The raw vulnerability in his voice cracked something inside me. This was not the callous man who had abandoned me. This was someone who had made a terrible choice under duress and was now asking for a chance to make amends. I need time, I said finally. This isn't just about me. It's about them. I understand. Take whatever time you need. We sat in silence for a moment, watching our breath cloud in the cold air. There's something else, he said eventually. Something I need to show you. He reached into his coat and withdrew an envelope. Inside was a letter dated 12 years ago, addressed to me, returned unopened with "addressee unknown" stamped across it in fading red ink. I wrote this the day I left. Your father's man intercepted it, like he did the others that followed. My hands trembled as I unfolded the yellowed paper. My dearest Margot, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not by choice, never by choice. Your father has made it clear that staying in your life will destroy both our futures. He has the power to do it, and today he's demonstrated exactly how far he'll go. I'm leaving because I love you too much to drag you into this fight. You've worked too hard to escape his control. I won't be the reason you're pulled back into his orbit. I promise I'll find a way back to you once I've built something he can't tear down. Don't wait for me. Live your life, be happy, shine as brightly as you always have. But know that whatever happens, wherever life takes us, you are loved completely. Forever yours. Atlas. Tears blurred my vision. 12 years of believing he had simply walked away, 12 years of hurt and anger, and all along there had been this letter, this explanation that never reached me. He kept us apart deliberately, I whispered. Yes. And now he's gone, Eleanor's gone, and we've lost 12 years we can never get back. Atlas reached across the space between us, his hand covering mine. We can't reclaim those years. But we can decide what happens from this moment forward. I looked at our hands together on the cold bench, his larger one over my gloved fingers, and felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness yet, but the possibility of it. Not trust, but the first foundation stone on which it might be rebuilt. The twins need to be told the truth, I said finally. Not all at once, and not the ugly parts, but they deserve to know who you really are to them. Hope flickered across his face. And who am I to them? Their father. A complicated, imperfect one who made mistakes. But their father nonetheless. He exhaled slowly, his breath visible in the winter air. And to you? Who am I to you now? I looked out at the frozen river, thinking of all the currents running unseen beneath its surface. Like the emotions flowing beneath this conversation: anger and hurt, yes, but also relief and something else I wasn't ready to name. Someone I once loved, I said honestly. Someone who hurt me deeply. Someone who deserves the chance to explain himself to our daughters. I turned to meet his gaze. Beyond that, I don't know yet. He nodded, accepting this incomplete answer. That's more than I deserve. It's exactly what you deserve, no more, no less. A chance. The snow began to fall around us as we sat in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. Small flakes settled on Atlas's dark hair, on the shoulders of his expensive coat, melting on the warmth of my gloves. 12 years of silence between us, and still so many words left unsaid. How do we tell them? I finally asked. Atlas considered the question carefully. They'll have questions. About why I left. About why you told them I was someone else. About what happens next. They're smart girls, I said. They won't accept simple answers. No. They deserve the whole truth. Or as much of it as they can understand at 11. Not about my father, I said firmly. That part stays buried with him. Atlas nodded. Agreed. They don't need to know the ugliness. Just that I was forced to leave, that I didn't know about them, that I would have been there if I had known. And that Julian Devereaux. A kind fiction created by a mother trying to protect her daughters. They'll understand that, Margot. Children are more resilient than we give them credit for. I hope you're right, I murmured. We agreed to meet that evening at my apartment. Atlas would come for dinner, and afterward, we would talk to the twins together. I would prepare them first, letting them know there was something important we needed to discuss. Not the whole truth, but enough to set the stage. As we stood to leave, Atlas paused, looking at me with those amber eyes that had once been my whole world. For what it's worth, Margot, I never stopped loving you. Even when I thought I'd never see you again, even when I convinced myself you'd moved on, even when I tried to build a life without you. You were always there. In my thoughts. In my heart. I didn't know how to respond to that. 12 years was a long time. Too long to simply pick up where we'd left off. Too much had happened, too many years lived separately, too many wounds still raw. I need to go, I said, stepping back. I have to pick up the girls from school. He nodded, understanding my retreat. I'll see you tonight. 6 o'clock. 6 is fine. I'll text you the address again. I still remember it, he said softly. 43 Westridge, apartment 2B. The fact that he remembered our address after one brief visit shouldn't have affected me. But it did, piercing through layers of carefully constructed defenses. I turned and walked away before he could see how much it mattered. The twins knew something was up the moment I picked them up from school. I rarely met them there, usually letting them walk the 3 blocks home with their friends while I worked my afternoon shift at the bookstore. But today was different. Today everything was different. Why are you here? Olivia asked immediately, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. Can't a mother pick up her daughters without an interrogation? I tried to sound casual. Jenny linked her arm through mine. You're being weird, Mom. I sighed. Let's get home first. Then we'll talk. The walk was filled with their chatter about school, Jenny's art project, Olivia's science experiment, the ongoing saga of classroom politics. I listened with half an ear, my mind occupied with how to begin the conversation that would change everything. Our apartment felt smaller than usual when we arrived, as if it were physically shrinking under the weight of the truths I needed to tell. I made hot chocolate our tradition for serious conversations and called the girls to the kitchen table. So that man from last night is coming back, isn't he? Olivia said before I could even begin. How did you know? Logical deduction. You're acting strange. You picked us up from school. You're making hot chocolate at 3:30 in the afternoon. And you keep touching your wedding ring finger even though you've never worn a ring there, Jenny added. You do that when you're thinking about the past. I stared at them in amazement. When had they become so observant? So insightful? My babies weren't babies anymore. Yes, he's coming for dinner. At 6. And we need to talk before he gets here. They exchanged a look, that twin communication that had always fascinated and slightly unnerved me. "We know he's not just some guy who works with Aunt Eleanor," Jenny said. The way he looked at us was different. Olivia nodded. "And he has our eyes. Exactly our eyes." I took a deep breath. "You're right. He's not just some business associate of Aunt Eleanor's. He's more than that. He's our father, isn't he?" Olivia asked directly. The question hung in the air between us, all my carefully prepared explanations suddenly unnecessary. "Yes," I whispered. "Atlas Reed is your father." "But you said our father was Julian Devereux," Jenny said, confusion and hurt mingling in her voice. "I lied," I admitted, the words painful to speak aloud. "I'm so sorry, but I lied to you about that." "Why?" Olivia demanded. I reached for their hands across the table. "Because the truth was too painful. Because I wanted to give you something solid, something simple, rather than the complicated, messy reality." "Which is?" Olivia pressed. "Which is that Atlas left before you were born. Before I even knew I was pregnant with you. I had no way to contact him, to tell him about you. He found out you existed just 3 months ago, when Aunt Eleanor showed him your pictures. So he didn't abandon us?" Jenny asked, her voice small. "He just didn't know." "That's right, sweetheart. He didn't know." "And Julian Devereux?" Olivia asked. "Was a boy I dated in college. He did die in a motorcycle accident, but years before I met your father. I borrowed his name when you were born." "A convenient fiction," Olivia said, not accusingly, just stating a fact. "Yes," I admitted. "A story that was easier to tell than the truth." Jenny's eyes filled with tears. "So everything we thought we knew about our father was a lie?" I felt sick with guilt. "Not everything. The stories I told you about his kindness, his intelligence, his love for books and science ethos were all true. They were all Atlas. I just changed the name and the ending." "Mom," Olivia said slowly, "if Atlas Reed is our biological father, and he's the trustee of our inheritance, and now he wants to be part of our lives, what does that mean for us?" "It means," I said carefully, "that you have choices. You can get to know him as much or as little as you want. He understands that this is overwhelming, and he'll respect whatever boundaries we set." "Do we have to call him Dad?" Jenny asked. "No, absolutely not. You can call him Atlas for as long as you want. Forever, if that feels right to you." "Why is he coming tonight?" Olivia asked. "To meet you properly. To answer your questions. To begin, whatever comes next." The twins were silent for a long moment, processing this seismic shift in their understanding of their own history. "Will he take us away from you?" Jenny finally asked, her voice trembling slightly. I pulled her into my arms, fierce protective love surging through me. "Never. Not ever. You are mine, and I am yours, and nothing will ever change that. Atlas wants to be part of your lives, not take you away from me." Olivia stood up and joined our hug, her thin arms wrapping around us both. "I don't forgive you yet for lying," she said matter-of-factly. "But I understand why you did it." "I don't expect immediate forgiveness," I told her. "I just hope you'll give me the chance to earn back your trust." "We have a lot of questions," Jenny said, wiping away tears. "For both of you." "I know, baby. And we'll answer them as honestly as we can." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of preparations. The twins disappeared into their room, whispering together, occasionally emerging to ask me another question before retreating again. I cleaned the apartment, though I knew Atlas wouldn't care about water stains or worn furniture. I prepared a simple dinner pasta with the good sauce I saved for special occasions, a salad, and garlic bread. At precisely 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. The girls appeared from their room, having changed into matching sweaters, Jenny's blue, Olivia's green, their faces solemn but composed. "Ready?" I asked them. They nodded, positioning themselves on either side of me as I opened the door. Atlas stood there holding a small potted evergreen tree decorated with tiny ornaments and lights. Not cut flowers that would die, not an extravagant gift that would overwhelm, but something living, something that could grow. I wondered if he knew how perfect a symbol it was for what we were attempting. "Hello," he said simply, his gaze moving from me to the twins. "Thank you for allowing me to come." Jenny stepped forward first, surprising me. Her usual impulsivity was replaced by careful deliberation. "You're our biological father," she said, as if testing how the words felt in her mouth. "Yes," Atlas replied, his voice steady though I could see the emotion in his eyes. "I am. But not our dad," Olivia clarified. "Not yet." "I understand the distinction," Atlas said with a nod. "And I respect it." "We have questions," Jenny continued. "I would expect nothing less." "A lot of questions," Olivia emphasized. "I'm prepared to answer every one as honestly as I can." The twins exchanged another look, some silent communication passing between them. Then Jenny stepped back, allowing Atlas to enter. "We made dinner," she said with careful politeness. "Mom's special pasta. It's not fancy." "It smells wonderful," Atlas replied, handing me the small tree. "I brought this. Not as a Christmas tree, I know you probably have your own traditions. Just as a symbol, I suppose. Of something new beginning." "Our apartment is too small for 2 Christmas trees," Olivia observed practically. "Then perhaps it could go in your room?" Atlas suggested. "If you want it, that is. If not, I understand completely." Another twin exchange of glances. "We'll decide after dinner," Olivia stated. "Once we've heard what you have to say." "That's fair," Atlas agreed. Dinner began awkwardly, all of us hyper-aware of the conversations to come. But gradually, as we ate, the tension eased slightly. The twins, curious despite their wariness, began to ask questions, careful, probing questions designed to build a picture of the man who had contributed half their DNA. "What do you do at Reed Ventures?" Olivia asked. "I find companies with potential but insufficient resources," Atlas explained. "Then I help them grow, innovate, expand." "So you're rich," Jenny said bluntly. "I've been fortunate, yes." "How rich?" Olivia pressed. I shifted uncomfortably. "Girls, that's not it's all right, Margot," Atlas interrupted gently. "It's a fair question. Yes, I'm wealthy by most standards. But what matters more is what you do with resources, not how many you have." Jenny tilted her head. "Is that why you're helping with our inheritance? Because you're good with resources?" "Partly," Atlas admitted. "But mostly because I want to ensure you have everything you need to build the future you want. Whatever that looks like." "Did you love our mom?" Jenny asked, switching topics with the conversational agility only children possess. I saw Atlas hesitate, clearly weighing his answer carefully. "Yes," he said finally. "Very much." "Then why did you leave?" Olivia challenged. "I was forced to," he replied, his eyes meeting mine briefly. "Someone with considerable power threatened to destroy both our futures if I stayed." "Our grandfather?" Olivia guessed, always quick to connect dots. I nodded, acknowledging the truth without elaborating. "Yes. Your grandfather didn't approve of Atlas. He made it impossible for him to stay. He could have told you he was leaving," Jenny pointed out. Atlas set down his fork. "You're right. That was my mistake. I tried to protect your mother from a painful confrontation with her father. I thought leaving cleanly would be kinder than dragging her into the ugliness. I was wrong." "Yes, you were," Olivia agreed matter-of-factly. "I appreciate your honesty," Atlas said, a smile touching his lips. It's a quality I value highly. Mom says we get our bluntness from her, Jenny offered. I think perhaps you get it from both of us, Atlas suggested cautiously. The twins considered this, another of their silent consultations happening across the table. What happens now? Olivia finally asked, returning to the practical concerns that always occupied her mind. With the inheritance, with you, with everything? That depends on what you all want, Atlas replied. Legally, certain things are fixed. I'll manage the trust until you're 18. But how involved I am in your lives beyond that? That's up to you and your mother. If we're really rich now, can we get a bigger apartment? Jenny asked. I opened my mouth to caution against making materialistic demands, but Atlas spoke first. That would be your mother's decision, he said. The trust is structured to provide for your education, healthcare, and reasonable living expenses until you're of age. But major changes should be your mother's choice, not mine. I appreciated his deferral to my authority, his refusal to use money to win their favor. Could we at least fix the heating? Olivia asked. It's always freezing in here. That we can definitely do, I said, smiling at her practical request. Even before all this, I'd been saving for repairs. The conversation continued through dinner and into dessert, simple ice cream with the chocolate sauce I'd been saving for a special occasion. The twins' questions ranged from deeply personal to surprisingly pragmatic, and Atlas answered each one with thoughtful honesty. I watched them interact, these daughters of mine, with the man whose features they carried, and felt a complex mixture of emotions. Relief that they were handling this revelation with such maturity. Sadness for the years lost. Fear about what changes might come. And something else, something I wasn't ready to examine too closely, a warmth when I watched Atlas with the girls, a memory of feelings I'd buried long ago. After dessert, the twins asked if they could be excused to discuss things privately. I nodded, understanding their need to process together. When they disappeared into their room, closing the door with a decisive click, Atlas and I were left alone at the kitchen table. They're extraordinary, he said softly. Yes, they are. Olivia has your logical mind, your ability to see through pretense. And Jenny, she feels everything so deeply, just like you do beneath that practical exterior. I'm not sure whether to be flattered or unnerved that you still think you know me so well, I said. I don't presume to know you anymore, Margot. I'm simply observing what I see. The way you've raised them, what you've taught them about questioning, thinking for themselves, it's remarkable. We fell silent, listening to the muffled sounds of the twins conferring behind their closed door. What do you think they're deciding? Atlas asked after a moment. Whether to let you into their lives, I answered honestly. Whether the father who suddenly appeared is worth the risk of attaching to. And if they decide I'm not? I knew this moment would be difficult for him, this waiting for judgment from children he just met but already loved. It was a vulnerability I'd never seen in the Atlas I'd known before. Then we respect their decision, I said gently. And you find other ways to be present without overwhelming them. The door opened, and the twins emerged with the solemn dignity of judges returning with a verdict. We've made a decision, Olivia announced. Actually, several decisions, Jenny clarified. Atlas and I waited, both holding our breath. First, Olivia began, we're keeping the tree. It can go on the dresser in our room. Second, Jenny continued, we want to know more about Sinclair Pharmaceuticals before we decide anything about the inheritance. We need to understand what we're responsible for. Third, Olivia said, we want a trial period. For getting to know you. Atlas nodded, accepting their terms. That's very reasonable. What kind of trial period did you have in mind? 3 months, Jenny said promptly. We meet twice a week. You tell us about yourself, we tell you about ourselves. No pressure, no expectations. Just learning. And after 3 months, we decide if we want you to be more involved in our lives, Olivia concluded. I was amazed at their thoughtfulness, their careful protection of their emotional boundaries. Atlas seemed equally impressed. Those are excellent terms, he said seriously. I accept them completely. There's one more thing, Jenny added, glancing at her sister for confirmation. Olivia nodded. We want to know if we can meet your family. If we have grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins we don't know about. Atlas's expression softened. My mother would love to meet you. She lives about an hour from here. My father passed away when I was in college. I have a sister, Diana, who lives in California with her husband and 2 children, a boy and a girl, a bit younger than you. So we have cousins? Jenny asked, a note of wonder in her voice. Yes, Atlas confirmed. Cousins, an aunt, an uncle, a grandmother who would be overjoyed to meet you. I watched the twins absorb this information, this sudden expansion of their family tree from the tiny branch it had always been to something wider, deeper, more complex. We'll think about that, Olivia said, always the cautious one. First the trial period. Then we'll decide about meeting the extended family. Atlas nodded. Whatever pace feels comfortable to you. The evening wound down after that, the emotional weight of the day catching up with all of us. Atlas prepared to leave, putting on his coat with obvious reluctance. Before he reached the door, Jenny stepped forward impulsively. I'm glad you didn't know about us, she said. I mean, I'm sad we missed knowing you, but I'm glad you didn't choose to leave us. That you would have stayed if you'd known. I would have moved heaven and earth to be with you, Atlas replied, his voice rough with emotion. Both of you. The moment I saw your pictures, I knew you were mine, and I've spent every day since then regretting the years I missed. Can I? Jenny hesitated, then reached out tentatively. Can I hug you? Just to see what it feels like. Atlas knelt down to her level, opening his arms without a word. Jenny stepped into them cautiously, allowing herself to be embraced for a brief moment before stepping back. You smell like pine trees, she informed him. And your sweater is soft. Atlas smiled, blinking rapidly. Thank you for the hug. It means more than I can say. Olivia remained where she was, not ready for that step yet. But she offered a small wave. See you Thursday, she said. 6 o'clock. Don't be late. I wouldn't dream of it, Atlas assured her. After he left, the 3 of us stood in the quiet apartment, processing everything that had happened. Are you mad at us? Jenny asked suddenly. For wanting to know him? Of course not, I assured her, pulling both girls into a hug. He's your father. It's natural to want to know him. But you hate him, Olivia observed. I don't hate him, I corrected. I was hurt by him for a very long time. But now I understand why he left. And I'm trying to forgive, just like I'm asking you to forgive me for not telling you the truth sooner. It's a lot, Jenny said, leaning her head against my shoulder. Yes, it is. For all of us. Mom, Olivia said thoughtfully, the inheritance from Aunt Eleanor, does this mean we're not poor anymore? I considered how to answer, wanting to be honest without overwhelming them. It means your future is secure in ways it wasn't before. It means we won't have to worry about paying for your education, or medical bills, or fixing the heating. But it doesn't change who we are as a family. Can we still have our traditions? Jenny asked. Movie nights and pancakes on Sundays and walking in the park. Absolutely, I promised. Those things aren't about money. They're about us. That night, after the twins were asleep, I sat alone in the kitchen, trying to make sense of everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. My daughters were heirs to a pharmaceutical fortune. Their father was back in our lives. My sister, whom I'd resented for years, had been silently watching over us, planning this final gift. Nothing would be the same after this. But as I looked around our small apartment, at the twins' artwork on the refrigerator, at the height marks penciled on the doorframe, at the chipped mugs we collected from thrift stores over the years, I knew that what mattered most would remain unchanged. The love we shared. The family we'd built. Whatever came next, we would face it together. I pulled out my phone and texted Atlas. "They're remarkable, aren't they?" His reply came immediately, beyond words. "Thank you for today. For giving me a chance to know them." I stared at the screen for a long moment before typing, "It's what they deserve. What we all deserve. A chance." I set the phone down and walked to the window, looking out at the night sky. Tomorrow would bring more conversations, more decisions, more steps toward whatever our new normal would become. But for tonight, I allowed myself to feel something I hadn't experienced in years: hope. Not just for my daughters and their newfound security, but for myself. For the possibility that some wounds, no matter how deep, could eventually heal. Have you ever discovered that something you believed for years was built on a misunderstanding? Comment "second chance" if you believe that sometimes life gives us opportunities to rewrite our stories. And subscribe to Mr. Arden's Heart Stories for more emotional journeys that remind us it's never too late for truth to change everything. The following days passed in a blur of adjustments and revelations. The twins approached their trial period with Atlas with the methodical thoroughness that defined them both, Jenny creating a list of questions she wanted answered, Olivia researching Sinclair Pharmaceuticals and Reed Ventures to understand their father's world. I watched them prepare for their Thursday meeting with a mixture of pride and anxiety. They were handling this upheaval with remarkable maturity, but I worried about the inevitable emotional fallout. Sooner or later, the shock would wear off, and the deeper feelings would emerge: anger at being lied to, confusion about their identity, fear about what these changes meant for our family. When Thursday arrived, Atlas came bearing gifts, not extravagant displays of wealth, but thoughtfully chosen items that revealed he'd been paying attention. For Jenny, a set of professional quality drawing pencils. She'd mentioned her art teacher had recommended them, but they were far beyond our budget. For Olivia, a book on women in science that featured profiles of researchers who'd made groundbreaking pharmaceutical discoveries. "I'm not trying to buy their affection," he explained to me quietly while the girls examined their gifts. "I just want them to know I'm listening. That I see them." The first few meetings followed a similar pattern. Atlas would arrive, bearing some small, meaningful token. The twins would share something about their week. Questions would be asked and answered. Boundaries would be tested, adjusted, maintained. I stayed nearby but gave them space to form their own relationship with their father. By the third week, something had shifted. The formal politeness gave way to moments of genuine connection. Jenny showed Atlas her art portfolio, beaming when he recognized a technique she'd been practicing. Olivia engaged him in a debate about the ethics of pharmaceutical patents, her eyes lighting up when he challenged her arguments without dismissing them. One evening, after Atlas had left, I found Jenny sitting on her bed, staring at the small evergreen tree now thriving on their dresser. "He's nothing like I imagined," she said when I sat beside her. "What did you imagine?" I asked. She shrugged. "I don't know. Someone who didn't want us. Someone selfish. But he listens. Really listens, not just pretending like grown-ups sometimes do." "Yes," I agreed. "That's always been one of his strengths." "Did you love him very much?" she asked, looking at me with those amber eyes that were so like his. I considered my answer carefully. "Yes. I loved him deeply." "Do you still?" The question caught me off guard. "I don't know," I admitted. "It's complicated. We're different people now." "He still looks at you like he loves you," she observed. "When you're not watching." I felt my cheeks warm at her perceptiveness. "Does he?" "Definitely," she confirmed. Olivia noticed it too. The fact that my daughters were analyzing Atlas's feelings toward me was both amusing and slightly mortifying. I hadn't considered how my own relationship with Atlas would affect them, how they might read into every interaction, hoping for some fairy tale reconciliation. "Whatever happens between your father and me," I said gently, "it won't change how much we both love you. Our priority is making sure you and Olivia feel secure." "I know," she said, leaning against my shoulder. "But it would be nice, wouldn't it? If we could all be a family." I wrapped my arm around her, not trusting myself to answer. As Christmas approached, practical matters demanded attention alongside emotional ones. The heating in our apartment was repaired, a Christmas miracle in itself after years of ineffective complaints to the landlord. A trust account was established to cover the twins' educational expenses, and another for household needs that would ensure we never again faced the choice between paying for electricity or buying groceries. Atlas was careful to consult me on every financial decision, never imposing his will or using money to influence our choices. When I insisted that we continue living in our apartment for now, wanting stability for the twins during this period of change, he respected my decision, though I could tell he thought we deserved better accommodations. "What about Christmas?" he asked one evening after the twins had gone to bed. He'd stayed to discuss some paperwork related to the trust, but our conversation had drifted to more personal matters. "What about it?" I replied, gathering empty mugs from the coffee table. "I'd like to be part of it, if that's not overstepping." He hesitated. "But I understand if you have traditions, if you need that time just for the three of you." I considered his request, trying to balance what was best for the twins with what was fair to Atlas. He had missed 11 Christmases already. Did I have the right to deny him a 12th? "We usually open gifts on Christmas morning," I said finally. "Then we make pancakes and watch movies in our pajamas all day. Nothing fancy." "It sounds perfect," he said softly. "Would there be room for one more?" "The twins would like that," I admitted. "They've been dropping hints." "And you? Would it be too difficult?" I met his gaze across the small living room. Once, I had imagined countless Christmases with this man. Had pictured us creating traditions together, celebrating as a family. That dream had died a long time ago, buried beneath years of struggle and resentment. But now, looking at him, at the lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before, at the silver threading through his dark hair, at the careful way he held himself, as if afraid of taking up too much space in our lives, I felt something shift within me. "I think," I said slowly, "that it's time to create new traditions. Ones that include you." The smile that spread across his face made him look younger, more like the Atlas I had fallen in love with all those years ago. "Thank you, Margot. But," I added firmly, "no extravagant gifts. The twins know about the inheritance, but I don't want Christmas to become about money or things. It needs to be about family." "I wouldn't dream of overwhelming them," he assured me. "Though I've missed so many opportunities to give them gifts, to celebrate milestones, there will be time for that," I said. "But let's take it slowly." He nodded, accepting my guidance. "What would be appropriate, then? For Christmas?" "Something meaningful," I suggested. "Something that shows you're getting to know them. Jenny loves art and fantasy novels. Olivia is passionate about science and social justice. They're both at that age where they're discovering who they are, what they care about, like their mother," he observed with a small smile. "Always thinking deeper than most people, always caring about the things that truly matter." The comment warmed me unexpectedly, this recognition of who I was beneath the practical exterior I showed the world. Few people saw that side of me anymore, the passionate, idealistic woman who had once dreamed of changing the world. Somewhere along the way, survival had taken precedence over dreams. "I should go," Atlas said, checking his watch. "It's getting late." I walked him to the door, conscious of the twins possibly listening from their room. Our interactions were always performed on a stage now, with 2 attentive audience members analyzing every word and gesture. Atlas paused in the doorway, looking down at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Thank you, Margot. For everything. For raising our daughters to be such extraordinary people. For giving me a second chance I'm not sure I deserve." "Everyone deserves a second chance," I said quietly. "Even me. You have nothing to make up for, don't I? I kept their father from them for 11 years. Because I left you no choice." We stood there in silence, the weight of our shared history between us, all the might-have-beens and should-have-dones that had shaped our separate paths. "Good night, Atlas," I finally said, stepping back. Good night, Margot. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's W.